Cool.
Are we live?
We are live. The great "You're Live" has popped up. We are a few seconds behind, so everyone
Yeah.
knows that, like, if you ask a question and it's like, oh, they haven't got to me, it's simply because we're like, I think on a 20 or 30-second delay. I think that's just
Mhm.
like, automatic. But yeah, we'll kind of. Should we give people like 5 minutes to see if they roll in, and then, or you want us to launch right in? What are you feeling?
I join us on YouTube now. I'm just gonna send a text to everyone's phone.
Perfect.
So there'll be a text. It is quite early for a lot of people, mate. So
Mhm.
I'll email them. Join
That was my Instagram story. How to prep for an interview with G at Illusionist. Coffee.
Yeah, coffee. Yeah.
That's the
So
secret.
we're live right now. We could literally, I
Yeah,
guess, maybe do like a little preamble if you've got something you want to say.
yeah. Of course, of course. Well, for those of you that are here right now, welcome first off. Thanks for getting up this early. If you're watching this in post, thank you for giving us and carving out the time to sit here and watch this. There's gonna be some real juicy, meaty material in here. We have G from Illusionist. G and I have known each other about a year and a half now. We've done projects together. We've worked on various things. We're kind of always like, if I would just say who's kind of my mastermind kind of thing, if we took like that kind of framing, G's definitely one of them. We always like to talk, like, we send each other digital marketing ideas back and forth. And like, hey, have you seen this yet? But it's just crazy because he's really, from my understanding, kind of started from, just the ground level on Illusionist. And over the last, I think is it 10 years you've been with the company now, G?
Yeah, eight,
Eight.
so almost 10.
So less than 10 years.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
started from the bottom, and now, he's the guy doing the day-to-day operations. He's kind of always, not always maybe, but he's been the voice of Illusionist for a good long time. We've seen many iterations of that changing. Some controversial, some, and lately it's just been this openness that's really kind of opened things up, and I think changed the view by a lot of people of Illusionist, which I think has been great. I've been a massive diehard fan of the company since I was super little. I mean, Christmas gifts just wrapped up, and you can just look at them and see it's 20 different decks of cards, 5 different DVDs, and like 4 out of 5 of those DVDs are definitely Illusionist products. And introducing great artists like Justin Miller, like Daniel Madison, Eric Jones, Daniel Garcia, lately Juan Carlos, amazing magic. So
Juan Colas.
Juan Colas, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just a little correction just for his sake.
Yeah, thank you for that. I messaged him. I'd hate to make be like, hey man, you pronounced my name wrong. I'm like, oh no.
Dude, I'm the king of names being pronounced wrong. No one can say Geraint. So
Geraint. Okay, that's what I was gonna ask.
Geraint.
One of my icebreaker questions, like, all right, the biggest question we all want to know.
Yeah, how do you say it?
Actually say that Welsh name.
Yeah, it's
Geraint.
a Welsh name. It sounds like a self-appointed rap name. When I say G, everyone's like, oh, G?
Yeah.
Like I didn't choose that. It's just because the name is Welsh and it's Geraint, and not everyone can say it, so they just say G.
Yeah.
So
Wow. By the way, since I saw the text come in, our concurrent viewers, I'm watching it. Just we're thank you. We have 7 people here. It's 1 p.m. here in Germany. Oh wow. Okay, so we got Flawless here. Gee, I don't know if you're able to see the live streams, all the live stream chat. So I will like.
I've got to open in another tab, mate.
Okay, cool.
By all means.
Because I know people have a lot of questions. We have a lot of people out there. They're going to want to know a lot of what we're going to talk about today, which is really we're going to talk about to open up and set the groundwork, like your bigger why and what's going into this rebrand, the products coming out. I want to talk about what makes a slam banger. That's for those of you that understand G's vernacular. That's an important thing. What goes into some of the things that develop here? What's going on at the Magic community? Where do we need to clean some cobwebs out, basically?
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna go deep today, folks.
Yeah,
And
no holds barred. Like, ask anything you want in the comments. We'll answer anything you want.
yeah, and I want to make that again, restate that again. Like, G and I were kind of prep talking just, before the call here for the live. And like, that's kind of what he said. It's like, man, if people just ask, they will receive.
Yeah. I mean, we're an open book,
Yeah.
but nobody asks. Like nobody says, hey, why did you make this decision? But if you ask, I'll tell you exactly why. Like, there's nothing that we need to hide. So yeah, a lot of the misconceptions that you see within Magic, it's 2 + 2 = 5. And you could just ask and I'll tell you, and then you'll know. So yeah, hopefully we get into a lot of that today. This is live. I definitely want to state this is live. I have 2 dogs that are very needy Dachshunds. I don't know if Amazon are going to turn up. So, you have to forgive a little bit, maybe some potential interruptions. But mate, let's go for it. Hit me with your first question.
All right. So this is what I think is the groundwork for this. This first segment basically is called the curtain rises. Essentially, what we're going to do is kind of look at your past. We're going to link it to the future now, and then we'll transition into tricks of the trade, which is going to be more for us. Normally, it's talking about tricks. In this case, I think that's we're going to focus on that in the people watching this that want to know how to create the slam banger, what works, what doesn't. Do you know if you're getting a BS deal or not? Which we've talked extensively about. But to start us off, man, what's your bigger why right now? Like, what's your big guiding ship why? Like, go over that with us if you don't mind.
Yeah, I mean, I've been in Magic a long time, since I was 16. And I've been publishing or selling Magic since I was 19. And I'm 33 now. And I've seen a lot of the Magic industry change. And I think for the worse. And predominantly, I didn't really feel like it was my place. Like, who am I? I'm not really a world-class performer. I'm not really a world-class creator. So I'm in this hobbyist zone of just like, I love Magic. I do Magic. Sometimes I can create some Magic. Every few years, I'll come up with something. But, I'm not at the top of the tree for any of this stuff. So I didn't really know where my place was in Magic.
Sorry. Live again. That was a phone call coming in. Let's mute everything.
But I didn't really know where my place was in Magic. And I didn't really feel like I had anything to say or share. But then over the last few years, getting to know people personally, like you and then some other big names in Magic, I'll give my philosophies and my take on stuff. And they go, oh my God, I can't put that into better words than you just did. And I've kind of realized what my place is now. I'm like, there to give the insights and the data and the secrets behind the scenes and really give people the juice and let them know what Magic is, what they're going to get out of it, maybe educate them slightly on some of the peaks and troughs of running a Magic business. And, I've just got a lovely message on Facebook from a Magic shop. I'm not going to say who they are because I didn't clear whether they'd be happy for me to mention them. But they said it's lovely to see an industry leader changing things from the front and working with local Magic shops. So, I don't really class myself as an industry leader. But I guess that's the kind of impact you need people who are not doing it for ego. They're not doing it for their own narcissistic, views to get famous or to do anything, but they're kind of like sick of the way things are going in Magic at the moment and coming in with a different, fresh idea. Yeah,
I agree with you, man. It's something that's missing a lot. And I think, we talk at length about this all the time, man. And we always kind of, end up going back to, at the end of the day, it's like, there's so much going bad. It's hard to see the good sometimes. And when there is just good forefrontally on display, it's a refreshing breath of air, isn't it? Like, people can feel it. They don't care about the logic. They don't care about the whatever. What they do is they feel it. It's instinctual in a lot of ways.
Yeah, so I think a lot of the compliments that we're getting now are like people saying, wow, E's on a tear at the moment. Mm-hmm. And it's like, hey, we're just telling you the truth. We're telling you what Magic is shit. We're telling you what Magic is good. Mm-hmm. We're telling you how operationally things are decided. And people are saying, wow, my God, it's like Illusionist is on a tear right now. It's like good to see. But, we've we've kind of always thought this way, but we've never said it because we were trying to please everyone. And now we're just not afraid to kind of separate people and say, this is what we think. And if you don't think that way, there are plenty of other places to buy magic, and that's fine. Don't buy from us. But if you think the same way, if you feel something, if you've got, like you said, this instinct within magic, then maybe you're with us. And you know, it's open. It's open for anyone. But
Yeah, and that's going to be a constant theme you're going to see in this, you know, guys, is again that openness, and that's what's really, I think, making the difference. You know, I've got a video coming out here eventually where I disguise myself and messaged a bunch of magic companies, and you know, I think when you see that,
were we one of them? Did you?
yeah, you were.
Oh shit! Did you actually?
I'm Owen Fable. Have fun.
Oh my god! I took like a day to, maybe a day or two. That email was huge.
Yeah, it was like a month ago. Yeah, I just like a month ago. I'm like, huh. Yeah, you gotta love it.
Okay, well, I can't remember what I said, but I do remember being like, oh my god, this guy is like setting up his own magic business or something.
Yeah. Well, I want a lot of information, and I got it, which is, you know, again, kind of ties back. So I know this is kind of like the stereotype question and all these kind of interviews, man, but just, you know, you were 16 years old when you said you got into it, right? You know, what was the catalyst, man? What was the thing that made you go, damn?
I saw Dynamo on MTV Base, and he was performing for Wyclef Jean, and he was doing the 5 faces of Sybil Cut.
Ah, yeah.
And then Wyclef Jean runs around the seats. Like he jumps up on the seats in this club and runs away. And I've never seen magic like that. It's all glitter waistcoats and, you know, presenting like this and on stage and lighting and magician's assistants. I've never seen anything like it before. So the next day I had a job interview and I was early. I went in, got a magic book from the bookshop, and I spent 40 minutes learning, you know, the back palm. And then I go for the job interview. They see me carrying the book, a guy called Simon. And he said, oh, you do magic? And I said, look, I know one trick. I literally know one. And he's like, show me. And I vanished his business card with a back palm. We talked about cars and magic and hobbies and music for like an hour and a half. And he was like, oh my God, I'm half an hour over in this interview. I've got somebody else. We didn't talk about the job or if I was qualified. And then he's like, you got the job. So, yeah, I thought, wow, this magic stuff opens doors. I better keep this up.
Yeah. Which is funny because I think that, you know, when I met Brad and talked to him a bit, and I've talked about it with you, I think that's a similar thing that Brad kind of found, because he was like, you know, because we do have a lot of questions. I'm sure I'll have to circle back around. It's like, you know, where's Brad? Which we'll ask that later. But like, you know, that's kind of what he found as well, isn't it? It opened doors for him. And
yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I mean, it opened so many doors that now, I mean, shit, he's still the owner of one of the world's largest magic companies. You know, that's,
yeah. I mean, Brad retains an ownership stake within Illusionist.
yeah,
He's definitely not gone. He just loves to hang out with all of us. But he's not in charge of any of the operations, day-to-day running, any of the decisions. You know, he's not CEO, CFO, nothing. He has no, I'm just making a copy, by the way. So we're rolling with this live thing. But yeah, he was there, you know. I guess full disclosure, we've known each other. I hired you as a freelance videographer. And that was for How to Read Minds 2 in Vegas, which Brad said, hey, you're all going to Vegas, you're booking a mansion, you're going to rent ridiculous cars and whip through the desert. He's like, can I come?
Down. Yeah.
And I said, yeah. I said, you know, you're going to have to earn your food. You're going to have to earn your way, come and present, come and do an intro for us. But yeah, he's a really cool guy. You know,
he's interesting.
He's a legend within magic, and I think for good reason.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I mean, he set the scene, didn't he? And that kind of goes, everyone copied Illusionist format after that, which another thing we'll get into, I think, in a bit. So, man, that's just so cool. So, you know, you how did you fall into this, right? Like, how do you fall into, because I mean, I knew you from, this is way back when. Remember, I think I screenshot this a while back, so I went back and rewatched it and sent it to you. Like,
Mhm.
I found you through Theory 11 in the MIG.
Yeah, the wire.
Yeah, The Wire. And I thought you were a Theory 11 guy. And then you kind
Mhm.
of, I didn't hear anything of you for a long time. And then I kind of fell off Illusionist radar because I got in the orbit of the black and white terror and
Mhm.
all that stuff. And yeah, so how did you get there? Like, what was the thing that was like, hey, I want to work for you guys, and because I think this will be valuable for other people too, as well.
Yeah, I mean, if you want a job in Magic, you have to have transferable skills.
That's
So you
it.
can't just know Magic, you have to have some other skill set. I have a degree in interactive media, which
Mhm.
basically covers marketing, website design, graphic design. I did all of those as modules within university. And I was working as like the head of marketing for the NHS's third sector, which is like the volunteering space within the UK. And I was friends with Lloyd Barnes. He worked at the company at the time, and they needed a marketing guy. And I joined a call, and they said, and this is a really important interview technique for everyone. It's called the briefcase technique by Ramit Sethi. And I didn't have a briefcase because it was over Zoom, but I came prepared with a spreadsheet of like 20 ideas and
Mm,
my analysis of their website, what was going wrong, what they were doing right,
yeah.
what I thought certain directions were going to be. And when I kind of joined that call, I think Brad and Adam Wilbur at the time, they were like, wow, this guy is, he came prepared, he came fully armed with all these ideas, and he gave them willingly, he gave value. And they've reciprocated by saying, yeah, you've got the job. But I didn't know I had the job. And I guess through the grapevine, they were like, hey, we'll be in touch. And then I was at an all staff day. Pete Turner calls me. He's like, yeah, are you in Leeds? And I'm like, yeah. And me and Pete were friends like before Illusionist. And
Yeah.
he's like, it's Blackpool in like a couple days. He's like, let's go early. And I said, I'm working. I'm at an all staff day at my day job. And he was like, fucking quit your job, mate. Quit your job. I heard you're getting a job with Illusionist. And I
That's
said, well, I was like, before me. And he's like, yeah. So I threw my suits in the bin.
Mhm.
Me and Pete went to Primark, which is like, really budget
Yeah.
clothes. It was great. It was great.
Straight out of Primark.
I bought a duffel bag and I bought a load of new clothes at Primark, and I went to Blackpool. And then I was like, and I quit my job on the spot. I was like, oh, and then I get to Blackpool and nothing for the first day, nothing for the second day. And I start to like really panic.
Yeah, you're
And
sweating.
then, yeah. And then I was in Harry Ramsden's fish and chip shop, and I get a phone call from Brad Christian. He's like, hey, if you want the job, you're in.
Yeah.
So
Said in the most mellow, calm. Hey, man, how are you doing?
yeah, yeah.
Did you still have
Yeah.
interest?
So
Man,
I
we'd
don't
love.
know. I think I've covered this in like lives before, but
Yeah.
I really do feel like if people had some transferable skills and they concentrated on like,
Right.
everyone thinks a job is that you get something, and a job's not that you get something. A job's that you give something. You give value. You fix a problem for a company. You give them something that they need, and they will give you money for it. So it's very much a two-way transaction. If you
Totally.
can demonstrate any value in your day job, your normal life. And yeah, the briefcase technique, Ramit Sethi, if you go to an interview, you're interviewing for a job and you come prepared, even if you're going to go get gigs, you're off to like a cocktail bar and you show up and you say, oh, I told, 3 of my friends about your spot. That's them over there. And
Yeah.
they've all bought drinks. They're going to be like, oh, cool. Like you've already given them something. You've given them customers.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it's, or do your first gig for free. I used to bet people free drinks, get them to buy me a drink, and then give that drink to one of their friends because I was working. And just to show the bar that I could generate them revenue. So I would do a trick to win a free drink. I'd say, you know, I bet you, you know, what do you bet? Ace of spades or ace of, you know, clubs? Which one? Oh, spades here, clubs here for 2-card Monty. And I'd say, turn them over. I say, if you're wrong, you owe me a drink. They turn them over. They're both queens. What are you drinking? I'd say, I'll get like a mojito. They'd go buy a mojito. They come back. Oh, mate, I can't drink it yet. I tell you what, give it to one of your friends or you have it. But now all the bar sees is their, you know, revenue going up.
Yeah.
So it's given value. I just want to acknowledge, by the way, a few people are in the chat.
Yeah, for sure.
Flawless has got a good question. Would have liked Heartbeat to be available as a download option also, for example.
This is one we really want to cover.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just on a shoot in London and I see it popping off in the Magicians Only page.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think this is like, it's a very hot button issue that if people want, I can kind of cover.
Yeah.
So,
I think it's valuable.
Yeah, why is Heartbeat a physical product, not download? There's like multiple reasons. I think the first is because no one cares about downloads.
Yes.
Downloads a dime a dozen in Magic. You know, anyone and their kid brother can make a download on their iPhone, start their own thing, put the download up, charge $5 via Instagram. And it's so abundant and it's so saturated as a market that to get attention with a download is very hard. I've seen Theory 11 do beautiful packaging before.
Yes.
You know, stunning work. And it's the same thing. It could have been a download, but they make it a physical product. So the first is because no one cares. Second is downloads don't have any wholesale value. So Illusionist is one shop out of hundreds. So the opportunity to stock it at local magic shops around the world is beneficial to us. So by making it a physical product, we can do that.
Absolutely.
The third thing is that physical products are valued more. They're valued more within Magic because you can have the books on your shelf. How many Magic books have you bought that you don't read? For me, it's loads. Absolutely. I'll buy it. It's something physical for the shelf. I know that if I've got some dead space, if I've got some time to myself, if I'm off on holiday, it's, you know, it's there. I can just pick it up and I've got an unlimited supply. It's the same thing for physical products. They have a higher perception of value because you've got this access to this thing that is a physical item in front of you. It can go on your shelf if it's like gorgeous packaging. So yeah, there's a multitude of reasons. And yeah, another one is because we didn't want to, which is also fine. Like we didn't want to make it a download.
Well, there's also the piracy side of it too, right? Like,
yeah.
You know, it's like, it's one of those things where and I'm excited. Like I've actually, like I've done Heartbeat. I've performed it a few times now and it hits so hard, right?
Yeah.
And I'm holding off on doing like my normal kind of review thing because I want the packaging. I want to show it. It's important. It makes the thing feel beautiful. Like I think I commented on the Ditto video I made, right? Like you guys have literally made like an Apple level packaging standard for an industry that doesn't really have that. Like I don't think we've seen it since like True Astonishments, really.
Yeah.
You know, like that was a beautiful package.
Insane. The box. Yeah. Absolutely insane.
Yeah. The I guess a good you know, a good segue point here too is like, you know, what goes into a slam banger, man? Like, and explain, by the way, I love the term slam banger. I remember the first time I heard it. That's not a ghost, folks, by the way. Just like G has dogs, I have a cat, and he just popped in to say hello. So if you hear a little meow, that's why. So first off, what is a slam banger? Define that for us.
A slam banger is something that's like so good that you have to tell people about it. It's like, it's one of those things. Oh my God, have you seen that new movie? I think Top Gun Maverick was like the same thing where everyone was talking about, have you seen this? Did you know that he does his own stunts? It's like, it blurts out of you. It's so good that the next time you see a magician, it like blurts and it flows out of you.
Yeah.
And yeah, we only want to deal in slam bangers. You know, we only want to deal in slam bangers. We only want to sell things that can provide that level of value and hype to people. And then people, you know, I guess the criticism is they could say was it's overhyped. Well, guess what? We don't do it if it's not good enough to create hype. We just don't do it. So, you know, if Justin Miller's Vanish sells out, well, it was always going to sell out because, you know, we chose it because it was brilliant. We filmed it. I mean, in fact, Jake, you filmed it.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, Jake works with us as a freelance videographer, but yeah, he filmed it. Like, we only did it because it was brilliant. So it's like, we're not putting out 20 things a week like other magic companies. We're putting out an average of 0.4 per week, 0.4. So every 3 weeks on average in a year, you get a brand new, incredible banger. It just allows us to concentrate on only the good stuff.
Yeah. It's important too, because I think the equivalent to it, like that we talk about a lot, like you guys basically search for like, you know, Alex Hermosi's kind of like, for those who don't know, Alex Hermosi is like a prolific marketing guy. If you're interested in marketing, look him up. He's a great guy to follow. Great for magic too. On the side of what you can apply to your business, but yeah, you create a like what he calls the slam dunk offer, or the grand slam offer. Like you feel stupid saying no to this, and I think that's one of the reasons it's fueled it. And now, whether it was the luck in the beginning, you know, finding people like, you know, Miller, Houchin, Dan
Garcia. Yeah.
You've introduced so many people to the world. So before I ask, first off,
well, not me. Those guys predate me. I actually bought tricks from those guys. I was a customer of their magic. So yeah.
Like, okay, so so this is the next question then, because obviously there's a few checks and balances, and I know to an extent, but I want to clarify for everybody else, I think, you know, so they've submitted a trick, right? This person's like, yeah, I think I've got a slam banger here. They've submitted a trick. It comes in. It's gone through the screening process. What's the first step in that, right? So they have an idea.
Yeah. So we get a ton of submissions. They usually get filtered to me. If I don't know the credit, or if I think it's never been done before, then I'll send it to our team, and we have a voting system. The voting system was kind of introduced in the last like 2 to 3 years, basically to make sure that no one person at the company could approve or disapprove the products. It came in because an ex-member of staff said no to Christian Grace's level 1, which was a slam banger.
Yeah.
And we never wanted that to happen again. We were like, why is one person allowed to approve or deny a product? We should have the team as a whole vote as to what they think the value in this thing is. And then you can also, you know, 2 heads are better than 1. So by sending it to different people in the team, if I'm not sure of the credit, I don't know everything. So if I don't know if this has been done before and I like it, I'll send it to my team, and Dwayne could say, oh yeah, this is old. This was done by this person, you know, or, you know, maybe Romy could say, oh yeah, 5 other people have sent me this thing in customer service. It's actually a Michael Chatelain idea. I saw it on his Facebook. So you just really never know. So that's the first step, is really to kind of get like a team consensus. The worst part of my job is saying no to people. Because they have this dream of getting their name on Illusionist. And then there's just no way of not being the bad guy when you say it's just not for us.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's really difficult.
They take it very personally, don't they?
Well, it is personal. It's very personal. If you work on an idea and you've shown everyone and they build it up, oh mate, that's the best thing I've ever seen. That's the best thing I've ever seen. You should release that. You should release that. You should release that. And then they hit this roadblock of Illusionists saying it's not original or it's not for us. it is personal. They've put so much time and effort of their own personality into that effect. It's become a part of them. It's become a part of their credibility, identity, reputation. You know, maybe they've shown it at conventions and fooled some big names, and they've got notoriety from this effect. So yeah, it's very personal, and there is no good way of doing it. There's no good way of saying this has been done before.
Yeah.
Or so I like to just rip off the band-aid. I like to just to say, hey man, this is not an original idea. However, if you're thinking on the same level as Danny Garcia or Wayne Houchin, you should pat yourself on the back, and any new ideas you get, feel free to send them across, because you know, we are an infinite number of monkeys with an infinite number of typewriters. There will be some overlap. You will have created some ideas that someone else has in the past. It just happens all the time. So yeah, after that, if we approve it, it goes through that process. If it's something that needs to be manufactured, it goes to Jennifer on our team, and she works on the research and development, working with manufacturers overseas to create 3D drawings, 3D samples. And then, yeah, the ball gets rolling. So it's a very efficient process now. It didn't used to be during COVID because manufacturing was really, really slow.
Yeah.
But,
We've got to talk about this, like, because you know, I'm never pushing too hard, but every once in a while you're just like, dude, I've got this idea that's so crazy, you know, and you'll be like, you'll send it to me in like the early stages of it. And it's cool seeing this stuff grow, you know? So, and there's a lot of cost that comes with that. Like, and like I think we talked about this just earlier, right? Like, people understand that like R&D is expensive. So can you kind of, you don't have to tell them exactly what it is, but like give an example, like, you know, what's something that's like, you looked at it and you're like, yep, this is a slam banger, awesome. But then when the harsh realities of R&D go into it, and then further testing, because it's not like you guys just get submitted something and then you're like, hell yeah, all right, this is a slam banger. Everyone agrees. Okay, we have to manufacture it. And then it goes out. Sometimes you guys get all the way to the manufacturing stage where you're like that close. You get that focus, that close. And something comes up that's a harsh reality of life. And rather than put it out, like you scrap it. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, loads of things go in the bin or are shelved, like a ton of things that never see the light of day. I mean, R&D, we probably spend between 40 and 80K like on R&D in a month.
Yeah.
So it's very expensive. And by K, I mean 1,000, just for anyone who's not familiar with the vernacular. I know there's different people from around the world, so maybe you don't use that in your country. But it's very expensive to research and develop things. You need to pay for mold fees. Not everything is a winner on the first sample. Sometimes it takes 7, 10, 20. You know, you could get a ton of samples. Each one of those has to be paid for. Each one of those needs shipping. That's never free. And sometimes you could work on something for a year and then another magic company could release it, and they could have a trailer and explanations and the same idea, and then it all goes in the bin. And I remember getting an email from Penguin Magic, from Tim Trono, when we released self-vanishing headphones. He was like, hey, we were also working on the same idea. And he's like, how do you propose that we go about this? And I say, well, ours is released. So, you know, you live by the sword, you die by the sword. It's first to market, it goes in the bin. We've done the same with their products. If we see they've released something that we were also working on, it gets scrapped. So yeah, it's unless it's brand new, or unless it's like, you know, adding value that someone else isn't, sometimes it just goes in the bin and you lose all that money. You lose it all. So that's the nature of trying to do things and trying to make brand new things. It's very hard. It's a hard business.
Yeah, especially doing it honestly too. Like it's funny, like we're in this art where things like deception, everything is so prevalent, but it kind of bleeds through into the real dynamics, like it's we've all dealt with companies here and there. Like, I've kind of talked to, I'd say, the big four at this point, had great experience and absolutely remarkably terrible experiences. Now, let's say, so we're continuing on as well on this kind of slam banger kind of thread, but also segueing into, let's talk about the state of things. Let's talk about, let's rake the muck a bit here, because there's a lot of misconceptions. Because again, clarity is key for people to understand this and also succeed in this. Like, how to put this? So what kind of happens, and what are you noticing? Because, like, for example, I remember I think like the Parsons Switch box came out, it seemed like right away there was a lot of, like, a few companies kind of put out like, oh my God, and they rushed this thing to market, right? I've seen this a few times where it's like, so, and everyone does it to each other sometimes. I think you guys kind of always stay the course and don't do that. Like, if it's not something you've worked on for months and months and months.
Yeah, I wouldn't say we haven't ever done it, because I don't know, but I definitely know we haven't done it in years. Like, we've never seen something come out and rush out to steal someone else's sales, what we're working on. It's just not really worth our time. It's not worth the drama. It happened quite famously with Face Off. So Face Off by Ron Salamancaro. There was drama. I used to get involved in all this drama. And it gives you a terrible reputation, because you'll never convince people to go against their friends.
Yeah.
So, this is the situation with Ron Salamancaro. So Ron Salamancaro lives in the Philippines. It's a long way away. It's a very long way away. He showed us Face Off. We loved it. We signed it, and we said, we're going to be at FISM next year in South Korea. Whilst we're over there, we will film you. So we, went to South Korea and then just took a short flight to the Philippines instead. So there was a year where we'd already been aware of the method, of the effect. And then we get a submission. I think it was Lloyd Barnes at the time got a submission from Benny Chickerin. Benny Chickerin has his version that was on Penguin, but he submitted it to us. He said it to Lloyd, hey, I've got this idea. And it was the exact same presentation, the exact same method, but instead of doing it that way, it was that way. And so we said, look, Benny, we can't do this as a conflict, because we've already signed the same method with Ron Salamancaro.
Yeah.
And then 6 months later, or 4 months later, however long it was, I can't remember, this was years ago, we finally film with Ron. We finally get it in the can and we release it. And it goes up on Facebook. Oh, Illusionist have stolen this from Benny Chickerin. And then within 7 days, Penguin had that version released, even though it was the same.
Yeah.
And I knew the truth, and Benny knew that he submitted to us, but it became an argument online of Illusionist must have stolen this from Benny. And at the time, Ron Salamancaro's mother passed away. So he released the trick. Yeah. His mother passed away. And in that 7 days, he was getting a ton of hate and people calling him a thief whilst he was grieving for his mother. And it was fucking disgusting.
It is.
It was disgusting to see. But no one's ever going to side with a huge corporation. So Illusionist didn't really say anything. I just said to Ron, move past it. But it was dirty. It's a dirty business. And that is kind of the fresh vibe I've got now for Magic, and this kind of exposing these things, is that a lot of this drama we remain silent on. Silence assumes guilt. We didn't get involved because we thought, well, what's the point? But really, all it does is make Illusionist look guilty, or like we did take it, even though that's not the truth. And it's just a case of independent creation, and that we'd already signed one version. Penguin had probably already signed their version. But yeah, it became a huge drama unnecessarily. And I've just realized now that, like, unless you just say these things publicly,
Yeah.
people don't know the truth. And that usually the person that's going off on Facebook about how it was stolen from them, or this other company releasing theirs, and maybe that person's not going off. Maybe Benny said nothing, but friends of Benny might have come out in defense. I say might have, I know they did because I saw it, but friends of him will say, oh, the illusionist must have stolen this, as if we would steal something and find a guy in the Philippines and waste all that money flying all the way to the Philippines,
Right.
and then filming it and editing it, instead of just working with someone else, instead of working with Benny Chickering or working with someone who's like a lot closer. So yeah, there's always these crazy stories. Parsons Switchbox was another one where, we'd done all the work. Davey Rocket completely independently came up with it on his own.
Absolutely.
And we did all the work. And then Christian Grace, he was like, oh, I've got this box switch method. I said, oh, we built it. We filmed it. We built it with Davey Rocket. So that's another person who kind of independently came up with the same idea.
Right.
And then we're just about to release it, and somebody said, hey, that's a sweet trailer, but this is like Masuda's thing. This is called Boxing Match by Masuda. So I messaged Masuda. I said, I'm in the hole. I've made all the gimmicks. I've filmed the trailer. I've done this. Boxing match. It's not exactly the same, but it's pretty similar. Cool. It's like it's there. So yeah, it wasn't really a conflict for Masuda. We gave credit to Masuda on the product page, and then we released that. And within hours, another magic company released their, I can't remember what it's called, but it was like another version of it. And then there was an apparent war of like who stole from who, and really,
yeah,
there was no drama. It was like
comes telephone.
Yeah, it's crazy. So again, we stayed out of that one because we knew the truth, which was really it's Masuda's. If there's any kind of battle for who was correct, it wasn't even us. Like we weren't correct, but we'd done the due diligence behind the scenes to kind of say, hey Masuda, we've made this, we've filmed it, we just want to sell through our stock, we're going to give you credit on the product page. Like at least we'd kind of made that move, so it just wasn't a hill for us to die on.
Yeah Well, it's kind of like, again, another theme we'll have through this discussion is like the truth will typically prevail, but if it's not spoken and clarified, like like you're finding out now, then people can just put whatever frame they want. It's like, to put it in magic terms, right? Like a story I have from people I grew up with in my hometown. People come up to me and go, man, do you remember that trick you used to do, right? Where someone would sign the playing card, you give them the deck, and then you tell them to push it into their stomach and come out of their mouth?
Mm-hmm.
Well, listen, guys, we know full well that's not how it worked, right? It's not how that happened. But the thing is, just like everything else in life, when someone sees a good magic trick, they'll accentuate it even more after the fact. And that same thing goes with stories, with the truth presented. If it's not highly clarified, sometimes it gets lost. It's cool that you guys really saw that. I think it's cool too, because I've told you for a long time, encouraged you, like, dude, you should be more on the face of the company. And I'm so happy to like see you doing that. Like, I think that watching things on the cafe, watching the lives you're doing, it's making a huge impact on people. And that being said, because we've talked a lot about this, right? So when people deal with other magic companies, and again, we've got like kind of a video going out on this, what do they really need to watch out for? Like, what are some of like the horror stories? We don't have to name particular companies, and I think we're fair on that, even though we kind of know who we're talking about. What are some of the horror stories you've heard of people, working with other magic companies and kind of just getting hosed at the end of the day, and
Yeah, I mean, look,
combat.
everything comes with bias.
Yeah.
So when people come to work with us and they tell us stories about how they've been screwed over by all these other magic companies, we take it with a pinch of salt, because we probably know the same thing is being said about us with people working at other magic companies. So we don't always take it as gospel. We kind of just take it as like, these are very passionate people. These are artists. These are passionate people. And this is their own personal work that they take responsibility and pride in. And if it doesn't go 100% the way they want, they're not going to be happy. So we hear horror stories about all the other magic companies, and we're pretty sure that whether it be true or not, the same thing said about us, or at least it's kind of molded to kind of make it sound like everyone wants to be the hero of their own story. Everyone wants to be the own. So, yeah, I mean, I guess the biggest thing I've learned recently is that business-wise, people don't know much about royalties. They really just don't understand how it works. And yeah, I guess the clarity really for the protection of artists is that you need to be able to do some back of the envelope math. I spoke to the other brothers and they said, we're getting, I think it was like 20% royalties. Yeah. So I was like, okay, you're getting 20% royalties. And then, but it was through a distributor, it was through a wholesaler. So I said, let's say the product's $100, you're going to get retail. You don't get $20 because this distributor is giving you 20% of what they make. If they only make half because they need margin for the magic shop. So now you're getting 20% of $50. So you're getting $10 a unit where you thought you were getting $20 a unit. So you need to be able to do some correct back of the envelope math. And that's the same goes with us. If we offer 25% royalties, you need to be able to ask, okay, what's it 25% of? Is it 25% of what you make? Is it 25% of the retail value? Is it 25% of retail units only and not wholesale? Is it 25% of this minus production costs, which is not? But yeah, you need to be able to ask those questions to really effectively know. And a lot of the times this stuff's not communicated. And that's why people say, I worked with they come to us. I worked with so-and-so and they screwed me over. And then I'm like, how did they screw you over? And it always comes down to these little minute details where it just wasn't communicated properly.
And that's really it. It's clarity, man. I mean, again, you and I are marketing people, right? So we kind of understand that the more clarity we can give, the better. Like, it's important. Speaking of all of this as well, like, let's talk about, like, on the side of, like, I know you guys, if someone comes to you and they've got like something filmed, like I think Argent is a good example of this. There's a good split you guys do. If they do all of that work and you guys have to pretty much just put a sales page together, maybe do some editing, but you've got quality footage that hits the level of quality that is Illusionist, dude, you give them a really good margin. I know, because I've done this with you on the side.
You self-produced psychic surgery, so you got a better deal. I think, that's pretty standard. We work with Hanson Chen. We work with you. We work with Calvin Chow of Quiver fame. We work with the Peaksmith 3 guys from Electrics. We work with Patata, Peter, for the smart memo pads. And they get a really, really, really good margin. We just say, like, if you've done the work, you've done the trailer, you've made the product, it's 50-50. Like, we'll do all the marketing for our 50% share.
Right.
But you get 50% because you've done the rest of the work. So yeah, we're very open, we're very honest about that kind of stuff. I guess that, the less work I have to do, the less
Yeah.
margin I should take. So it's very obvious. It's like, but it doesn't always happen, but it is very obvious.
Yeah, and and I want to talk about, because we mentioned the wholesale side. I want to talk about the recent pull from Murphy's, but I do have one question first.
Getting into the juice.
Yeah, we're getting into the juice where the pulp is there.
Mm-hmm.
But before I get into that though, oh man, did I just lose it? Oh no. Oh no. Well, let's go into Murphy's then. Let's talk about that. Let's hit that issue. But I do have something to circle back around to, but I have to let my brain jog and catch up because we are at we're about 8 a.m. here in the States, and I've been up since 5 on 4 hours of sleep like a champ. So go into that. Why'd you guys why'd you guys pull out? What do you see as being kind of like underlying narrative on both the side of the business, but also the side of the ethics? And I'll just let you kind of go from there.
Yeah, I mean, we're very flattered that in 2022, Murphy's came to us and said, let's wholesale your products. Like, we'd love the opportunity to wholesale your products. I had a very good call with Austin Murphy, who I think is Mark Murphy's son. He's the guy who runs the show at Murphy's. And yeah, I think to give credit where credit's due, I think Austin has very good intentions. I think as a person, I think he's a very nice person. But we'd never worked with Murphy's before. We didn't know what to expect. And I said, I'm just going to give it a year. I'm going to give it a trial period of a year, all of 2022. And I'm going to evaluate whether or not it was good for our business. And at the end of that year, it just wasn't a good fit. It wasn't a good fit for us. And there were a few things that I learned about Murphy's, like during that time, which I'm not saying is wrong, because it's just the way they do business. Like, I got no hate towards Murphy's. Like, everyone at Illusionist just wishes Murphy's the best. There's some really good people over there, like Bo Kramer. I think Javier is an incredible performer. Again, like I said, I really like Austin.
Yeah.
So there's no hate. It's just a completely different business model. And one of those things that we didn't like was drop shipping, which Murphy's allows, people to have wholesale accounts that don't have actual local magic shops. And they can drop ship from Murphy's warehouse with a page that they've created in their bedroom. And it was when I spoke to a magic shop. I heard through a friend of mine, Sav, who I believe is here, at Sav Magician, SAAV Magician on Instagram. I think he's in the comments now, but Sav told me, hey, my favorite magic shop, Prop Dog, is closing its doors. It's closing down. The owners moved.
Yeah. What?
Not as in closing officially the brand, but they're closing the actual physical shop.
Oh,
and I believe that's happening, now. I think they're kind of like phasing stuff out to close that store now. But I was really sad. I was like sad to hear it. The guy who owns Prop Dog, Dave Bonsall, is a phenomenal magician. And I remember at Session Convention hearing a story, Paul Brooks, who owns Slight Bar in Bath, came up to me and he said, I just saw the best trick ever. A guy took my wedding ring, made it vanish. His wallet is on the floor. He picks up his wallet. Inside the wallet's an envelope. He gave it to me to open and my ring was inside.
Wow.
And I said, that's bullshit. That never happened. He goes, that's the guy there. Dave Bonsall's walking through. I said, excuse me, you just said that you just did this ring trick. Could you do it for me? And he said, yeah. Takes his wallet out of his pocket, throws it on the ground, stands on it with his foot. He says, who's got a ring? Paul says, you take my ring. Takes the ring, boom, gone, right in front of me, gone. Look down, wallet, nothing in my hands. Goes down, picks it up, opens the wallet, there's an envelope, takes it, he says, you take the envelope, you open it. I opened it, inside's Paul's ring. Like that. Phenomenal. Phenomenal. And so Dave Bonsall's a real worker. He's a real magician. He knows what's good and he invents some incredible stuff. And yeah, to kind of hear that his magic shop was closing, And he just said, it's a very competitive environment, which I agree with. It's a very competitive environment.
It's very
And,
unique.
I don't think I'm sharing anything that Dave wouldn't be happy with me sharing, but he said he invents quite a lot of stuff and he's just going to focus on his own products. He's just going to focus on Prop Dog. So yeah, if you want Ring Flight Revolution or you want Bond Slopes, go support Prop Dog, go support your local magic shops too.
Absolutely.
And I sat with it. I sat with that feeling of hearing about this magic shop closing. And I thought, how have I contributed to that? How have I contributed to that closing? Well, I could have given them extra margin. I could have allowed them to sell our products at the same discount as I was given to Murphy's. And I just decided I'm going to work with local magic shops. I'm going to take every local magic shop. I'm going to give them exactly the same discount I was given Murphy's. And hopefully that extra margin can help them with import taxes, rise in shipping costs, and keep local magic shops, brick and mortar magic shops in business. And by supporting specifically, shops that buy things up front and don't drop ship, it's going to level the playing field with actual physical shops and businesses because there's no competition with drop shippers. So I don't know if that's too complicated or it's too kind of like high level talking about drop shipping and things, but
yeah,
I think it just became clear that was our path. But again, it's not like Murphy's is doing anything sneaky or illegal. It's just a different business model. How they do business and how I want to do business just doesn't align anymore. And that's okay. We wish them the best. They can do what they do. They do some things very well. Their production's very good. And then we're going to do our thing. And it's just completely separate.
Yeah. And, again, it's like to call back and give a brief preview into the thing I mentioned earlier about kind of where the video I'm going to inevitably make. I've got the script written. I just need to sit down and do it and edit it. It's going to be kind of a longer one. When I was sending out emails, Murphy's were actually, the second most transparent of the companies.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And just touching on this a bit, because I did remember what it was and I put it on here so I don't forget. So I'll loop to that real quick just to tie it back off. When people are doing that, either 50 or 25 or whatever agreement you come to, because you guys do buyouts as well. Like a buyout can be a viable option. Like, if you've got something that's really killer, and at the end of the day, you just want to be paid a lump sum for it. Some people do I'm the reoccurring revenue guy 100%. That's always how I think.
Mm-hmm.
But or passive streams of income kind of thing. But dude, you guys put a lot into that 50% that you make. Like, people don't think of these expenses, like Facebook ads, marketing firm, paying them to do the distribution, to ad creation and creating the trailer. Dwayne's a G, man. He's the best. He's awesome. Like, he is one of the best in the industry. He's developed his own kind of genre and style based off of what's come before that fuels your guys' marketing now. And I just see things getting better and better and better. I constantly send him and Miles as well. I can't take credit away from Miles as well. I'll ask you, I'm like, I love this trailer. Who did this? I will text one of them and be like, bro, huge winner. Love the style in this. Good people too. But there's so much more that goes into it behind the scenes. Like, again, this is a quick passing one, but give people an idea, like what, really at the end of the day, I think you're still losing probably, and Shopify, because Shopify, which you guys host on now, you guys use the pro one. Our mutual friend Ahmed, who I introduced you to and helped optimize some things. Great.
Yeah. Great guy.
Yeah, he's not a magician.
Congratulations, by the way, to Ahmed for his graduation today.
Yeah. Oh man, I gotta tell you some more about that later when we're off the call, but off the live. But yeah, man, like, you guys are probably losing an additional 10% margin even on that from just put all the effort you put into, we are gonna reach the right people with the right message, et cetera, right?
Yeah, people don't understand how expensive it is. And I think if they did, they would appreciate how those decisions are made. So, you have to pay for a venue. Perfect example.
Oh yeah.
The Airbnb / studio that we were in over the last 2 days in London for 2 days cost us $3,000. And that's in pounds. So we're talking like $3,500.
Yeah.
Then I have to pay for Miles's time. I have to pay for Dwayne's time. Then I have to pay for everyone's meals, everyone's travel, everyone's fuel, everyone's parking, everyone's trains, everyone's coffees, everyone's water, everyone's drinks if we go to a bar. Those costs start racking up into the thousands. You know, it's probably, and that's just the nature of doing business. But then I have to hire customer service. So customer service costs. Then I have to pay for website infrastructure that's robust, that's not going to crash. Illusionist used to go down a lot because we were self-hosted on servers with Magento, and we'd get like more than 600 concurrent visitors, and it would start to get really slow. So, you know, we pay Shopify Plus fees to be on Shopify Plus. That's a few grand, you know, to do that.
A month, by the way.
A month. Then we pay for a 5,000 square foot warehouse. Then we pay for flood insurance. Flood. We pay $20,000 a year for flood insurance in California, where there's fires because it doesn't rain enough, because it's not wet. So, you know, there's so many costs that go against a business. Public liability insurance. You know, we have to pay for cardboard and bubble wrap that goes into the warehouse. The fire marshal comes around. We have to update fire extinguishers, smoke alarms. Like, there's so many costs that go into a business that people don't know. It would scare them to death. So then when we sell something for like $30 and people say, oh my God, like $30. I'll give it my own example for any thought of card to pocket. Some guy said, oh, $30 for a double backer, which is not a double backer. There's 8 gimmicks total.
There is.
But he said, you know, $30 for a double backer. This is a ripoff. I'm like, $30 is nothing. If you saw the work and the expense that went into filming this, and the development and the printing cost and the hiring a graphic designer and the packaging and everything, like, people would really appreciate it. That's why I am an open book. People could ask. I'll tell you. I'll tell you exactly what it is. I just did. But like, no one asks. Instead, you kind of get those sly comments online where it's like, oh, this is, you know, just a pencil. No, it's not just a pencil.
Yeah.
It's a flight from Madrid to our studio. It's a studio fee. It's camera guys' fees. It's food, it's drinks, it's whatever. It's going to the bar. It's buying drinks for spectators to kind of make sure they're having a good time and that they want to be around you seeing good magic. So it's like, you take care of those fees. Then you pay a graphic designer, you pay your web hosting, you pay your warehouse, you pay. So they say, oh, it's no, it's not. It's not just a pencil. It's not just a double backer. These things are very reductionary. You know, people reduce it to kind of like, you know, it's almost hyperbole how simple they make it sound. It's not simple to do this stuff. It's really not simple. And that goes for everyone.
Yeah.
You know, it's expensive.
You know, I want to clarify this too, because I did see something in the comments here. Marshall Roots, which is a good question. And I think, again, this is just a clarity thing. I don't know if you saw this one, Geraint Clarke, this one. You know, he said, is a lot of this not tax deductible, the food and everything? But what people don't realize, that I think people have it in their heads sometimes that, like, as businesses, since this is tax deductible, like, we just like send a ticket off and then they're like, oh yeah, so you spent $20 on this. Here's that $20 back. And it's like, it's not. There's still liquid versus like locked up funds. And liquid does have a finite amount, right? Like, you have a bunch of it. If you're
it's either going to the expense or it's going to the tax man. You know, there's 2 buckets it can go into. So tax deductible basically means that it's in the other bucket. It's an expense.
Yeah.
So if I didn't have that expense, I would have more profit and it would get dropped. That percentage profit would get dropped into the tax deductible bucket. So yeah, that's a really good question. It's a really, really good question. Like, Marshall, thank you for that. Like, because it allows us to kind of hopefully demonstrate and to tell you, you know, if I earn a ton of profit, I have to pay a ton of tax. If I spend that profit on making good products, so I reinvest it into the business, I pay less tax, but it doesn't mean I have more money because I had to spend it on those expenses. So yeah, it's a really, really good question.
Yeah, I'm glad we highlighted that, because that's, you know, that's something that again, like you and I were talking about this earlier, man. There's just some stuff that, because we know so much in like our little areas and stuff, right? We just think, oh, you know, they must know that. It's like if you show a layman just the basic key card trick, like we don't do it. You know, it's a basic key card effect sometimes, the one that we've been shown by our uncles and family members, things like that. But what we don't realize is we don't realize that we think that they'll spot it because it's like, oh, I've seen some people do this. They typically won't, because we overestimate how much people don't know and know, right? Mm-hmm. We don't know the full story on the other side. So clarifying this stuff is super important.
Yeah, so, for sure.
We talked a lot of business stuff. I think it's great. I want to close out with one more thing, talking about, well, no, you know what? Let's cover really quick one important thing, I think, because I think it is something important. It's a debate. I'm like, should I cover it? Should I not? And that's going to be, there's some companies out there, and I've seen this firsthand. Imagine for a second for me, everyone watching, you get your dream. You've got this gig with whatever magic company. They fly you across the ocean, or across the world, whatever. You go in there, you make your dream product, you do your lecture, whatever it is. And you have a royalties deal. You've signed the contract, everything's crystal, and then you get there and you realize, you go to withdraw your funds and you realize, like, holy shit, I have about $10,000 in expenses I have to pay back to the company as my responsibilities before I start making profit. What's going on here? And this has led to some really, really interesting things. So we're talking, like, then at that point, people are almost in debt from doing work. Now, I've heard stories of this. So, kind of, you know, you've heard a lot of this too, and we've talked at length about this. Let's kind of hit this guy on the head, and then we'll transition into like some talking about, like, you know, people basically bad-mouthing Illusionists sometimes for, you know, kind of just following and stuff like that. We'll go into that after this, but I want to hear this first. I think it's interesting.
What, as in, how do we combat that? How do we combat that expense of, like, that outlay?
What are your thoughts on that too? Because it should make sense on a business side, but really, at the end, it doesn't, because you're probably going to lose the artist if you get in a situation like that.
You get into a situation where you have to spend some up front. Like, what's the, give me the question.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess I didn't phrase it badly. Like, paying for the, like, there are certain deals in the Magic community out there where you're paying for your whole expense. Like, you go out with your handler, order like 5 or 6 plates of super expensive food and just pay from each one and give you this big experience. And then you find out you have to pay all of it back. And maybe you didn't eat their food. Maybe you didn't eat the camera people's food. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I just wrote this in a blog. It's on the Illusionist website. Go to illusionist.com, click culture, then click blog. It's called How to Make Money in Magic.
Yeah.
Or How to Make Money with Magic. It's like one of those, but it's How to Make Money with Magic or in Magic. And it's news to me that artists are charged production fees. And it's not financially wrong for a company to do that. It makes a lot of sense because that's how, like, the music industry does it. But here's the issue. The artist doesn't make the decisions. So if a singer is kind of selling an album through their deal with their record company, the record company chooses how much they pay the photographer. The record company chooses which music video director they hire. They choose whether or not they're going to greenlight the location and how much that's going to cost. They're going to choose how much crew they need, how much they're going to feed them, you know, how expensive are the flights. Then When it comes to how many vinyls they press, they're going to choose how much upfront cost that's going to be. They're going to choose how much they make from the radio. Are they going to make a lower royalty per play on the radio to get more distribution to build up a brand new artist? Like, they're going to decide all of those things. So then to dump the cost in the artist's hands is, I think, immoral.
Yeah, because they just don't. They're creators, they're artists. It's not their, they don't think like it's my job to know this. I just want to create my art and put it out there.
Yeah. So the same thing happens in Magic. The same thing happens in Magic as it does in music, which is that people sign into these deals and production costs are taken out. I heard one story. I'm not going to say who or with one Magic company. With which Magic company, but the Magic company flew a guy over. He did the filming of the project. They went out for dinner with the crew. It goes back home, and I believe, I'm hearing it third hand, so I'm not going to say who because I don't know if this is true or not, but I would imagine it is true because I've heard this story, multiple times from different artists. But apparently his mother dies or father dies, one of the two, and he wants his royalties early so that he can help pay for that funeral.
Yeah, final expense.
Yeah, and the Magic company said, well, actually, you currently owe us money, which I was shocked to kind of hear. They said, you owe us money because we paid X amount of thousands for the flights and the production and the video and the editing and the location and the food. So right now, the sales haven't covered those expenses. Now, again, financially, that's up to that company. They make the deal, and it's up to the artist whether or not they accept it.
Yep.
But morally, I don't like it. Just my own personal opinion, I don't like that because you're making the artist an unwitting partner in those decisions. And now they're on the hook for 50% of that cost. So if you have to recoup all those costs before anything is made for the artists, then they're essentially paying for those costs that they have no control over. So I wrote that in the blog. Hopefully that makes sense for everyone, but it's very strange how that's a thing. I didn't know that was a thing until recently. Working with a few artists kind of told me. And again, it's like, I'm not saying that these Magic companies are doing anything wrong. We do things a bit differently, and that's fine, and it costs us more money. And financially, it makes sense to do. If you said to me, how do I make the most money? I'd say, well, do this kind of deal. Like, as a company, we should do this kind of deal. But morally speaking, we pay out on the first sale. So if you, regardless of whether or not we sell, enough to cover costs, we pay out on sale number one.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's fairness. In my view, that's fairness. But this is not a pitch to kind of work with Illusionist and not with anyone else. This is just revelations to me that are coming to light. So I'm not speaking ill of the dead here. I'm not saying you should never work with any other Magic company. I don't think that's true at all. You do what you want to do, but at least be aware that these things happen and that they're new to me. It's kind of what I'm learning.
Yeah. Horrifying to hear it. I think, okay, this is where the ethical boundary gets for me, right? Like, if X company feels, X company takes you out to, like, it's one thing if you're like, hey, dude, I'm here, I really want to try X, and it's like a Linea, for example, like the Chicago restaurant that look, I would never expect, for example, if I'm doing a shoot with you guys and I'm out, I would never expect to like what do you mean you won't pay for this meal? Dude, that's $1,000 9-course meal. I get that. But when you have a handler and they know, and they're going out to take you out to the most expensive brunch spot in town, you only eat your plate of poach, your hollandaise and your eggs Benedict, but they get 3 other plates to sample around and they eat 3 times as much as you do. And they know, and they know they put that in the small print too. That's not right. And then when you see, and I've seen this firsthand and had comparative stories of when, like, yeah, I went and did this deal one time, this deal another time. There's a big change in what happened. Did not go out as much when I accepted the buyout because they can't charge you. When I came back for the royalties, oh man, it was party central. You know what I mean? Like, it just, that's where I think and it burns and it breaks my heart to see that.
Yeah, mine too, man. Mine too. It's part of the reason why I don't want to be Magic famous. I don't want to do this. Like, I have no interest in people following me, you know, liking what I do as an individual, building my own brand. I've got no interest in that, but it's a sense of responsibility for me now. It's like, I cannot be at the top of the tree with, you know, one of the biggest magic companies, like you said, one of the big 4, and not say this stuff. And it's like, I don't want to, you know, I'm quite happy to not say things. I'd be quite happy to not have social media on my phone, but it's a sense of responsibility now. It's like, I just cannot leave this unsaid. So we're doing stuff like this, really, I guess, because it's kind of shocking and it's disheartening. And like, you are the same as me. I'm friends with a lot of people within the magic industry, and you go out for a beer with those people and you hear a story and you're like, why didn't you do this, or this? Oh, well, I didn't know.
That's it.
And then I'm like, oh, well, someone needs to say this stuff. And it's like, no one's going to say it. So it's like, there's a responsibility on me to be the one to say it.
Yeah. And there's a lot of, and that's one of the things I think, you know, above all else, like, when I did meet you, because and this is a good segue, I think, in here too, as well. Like, there's like this public, there's a difference between like public perception and what's real, right? And I think, again, like, everyone elaborates and tries to grow this story. Like, when I coming into it, you know, I'd heard, you know, because bearing in mind, I was on the black and white terror side for a while, and I was kind of focused into their world. You know, to give you guys an idea, when I was doing like on the Penguin Live stuff, there's a good long time where like I would go every week, but I totally had no interest in going to the cafe. That place squeezed the passion out of me so hard because I had seen too much. So not saying I'm ungrateful for things. I'm very grateful. I met some of my best friends in the world that I get to talk to every day, and I feel so privileged to be around through that company, both magic and not magic. Dude, I met the guy that co-wrote Pet Sounds with Brian Wilson through that. And that's one of my favorite albums of all time. That's the Beach Boys. That's amazing. But like, you know, I didn't pay attention, but I just kind of heard the rumblings of like, Illusionist kind of shady, blah, blah, blah. But it was shocking coming into it with, you know, because I first got in communication, guys, and Lloyd was still there at 2020, I think, where you and I first had our first like quick chat. You know, with Turner kind of playing connection point. And, you know, it's interesting that the truth is much different than what the perception is. So if you wouldn't mind, in a long-winded way of saying, would you kind of go over, you know, first off, we have this stuff like the Downfall of Illusionist video. And I'm not shitting on Craig or anything when I say this, and I know you're not going to either. He's actually let me take that out. Craig is a pretty lovely guy. You know, met at Magic Live, met him at Blackpool. He was very, very friendly, very friendly. But go into this a bit. What do you think the reasoning is why people want to put so much controversy on you guys in particular? Because it is like, I would say like controversy and, well, Penguin's still pretty high, but we can go into that another time. But compared to some of the other ones, like people,
I mean, it's not just Penguin, not just Penguin, not just us. It's not just Murphy's. It's not, you know. I actually wrote a blog post. It's unpublished. I've never published it, but I'm gonna read a segment for it now for everyone because it answers it perfectly. Why does Illusionist get so much negative attention? Magic Orthodoxy, that's David Kenny from YouTube.
He's actually on here, I think.
Yeah, who we love and you need to subscribe to. He does magic reviews. He told us once that using our name in the title or reviewing one of our products, he gets more views. Okay. Love it or hate it, if Illusionist makes a move or releases a product, everyone knows about it. That's the true power of this company. It's the reach that we have. People know who we've hired, they know who we've fired, and everything in between. The bigger the audience, though, the more critique you open yourself up to. Negative attention is like bycatch in fishing. So bycatch is, you know, you going out to fish for tuna and you kill a few dolphins. That's like, it's unfortunate. They're not meaning to catch dolphins, but it's like, that's what it is. So that's negative attention within Magic. So you're trying to get tuna, but the odds of the dolphins getting caught too, you know, the odd one will swim right in. So nobody wants that, but it's the consequence of having a big net. The same can be said for Magic. Negativity just swims right in. Those people then leverage our name for engagement, for growth, or for clicks. It'll keep happening. There'll be countless rumors and posts about everything that we do, how we're scumbags, how we're heroes, and everything in between.
Yeah.
Because taste is now tribal. You know, if you love it, you're in. But if you don't like it, you're not out. You should be. That's the opposite of being in. But the tribal response is to be more than simply out. It's to be against, to be at war with the idea of being in. It's far more destructive. So take what you see or what you hear with a pinch of salt. As in the story of David and Goliath, David became famous by taking down the giant, and magicians become famous for calling out big magic companies. It would be impressive if it wasn't so self-serving and transparent. So that's an unpublished blog post that discusses really what happens within Magic. And that Craig Petty video, I called Craig Petty after that video and I offered him a personal interview, just like this one.
Yeah.
And he didn't take it. He didn't take it. So then I have to ask myself, you know, maybe he's busy, that's fine. Or maybe he wanted to make the video and it got loads of likes and it got loads of views and it got loads of attention for his channel and he gained subscribers. And, you know, if that's the goal, then that's the goal.
Right.
But I did try and set the record straight. I did say, look, I'll do a free interview for your channel. And I was never taken up on the offer. So now I have to ask myself, really, what was Craig's intention? Was it for the truth? Or was it just to get likes and views like the other 8 videos that he's made on Illusionist without ever emailing me or texting me personally? So it's not just Craig, it's everyone. Tyler Lunsford is another, you know, creator in Magic. He read one of my blog posts that I wrote when we did the rebrand on Illusionist. He read the blog post on a video and added nothing to it. He just critiqued each line. He didn't give any insight other than kind of disagreeing with everything I said. So I commented below his video and the comment was deleted. So then I thought, okay, what are these people doing? You know, what are they doing by making these inflammatory videos? They're getting views and they're getting likes and they're getting subscribers and they don't really want my comment. They don't really want to interview me. They just want the drama because the drama equals attention. Attention equals views. More views, more attention. They make more money. Simple as that. That's the way of the world. And, you know, it's not negative. It's not positive. It's just a way of life. When you have a net as big as Illusionist does, you're going to unfortunately catch some negativity.
Yeah, that's big facts, man. Now I have a question in here from Hungry and Hungover, which I did every video. I love this guy. He's like a raving fan of this channel, so thank you. So this is kind of like also ties into all this as well, right? So we've seen the marketing. You've been the kind of the constant marketing voice. But we've seen it evolve over time, right?
Yeah.
So we had things like the Madison days, you know, and we've seen a huge shift. And one of the things which by the way, in America, that is not an insult, so I apologize, everybody. So, you know, I have somebody asking about, you know, the Back to Black campaign. And I think setting the record straight, because we've talked about it a couple times. I've talked to Pete about it a couple times. I've talked to a few people about this, and I'm hearing these threads that line up between you guys are actually on the front lines of it. I think it's important to clarify it because, you know,
yeah, that's something that Craig brought up in the video too. So I really did want the opportunity to address it publicly. So this is what Back to Black was supposed to be. It was supposed to be, you know, the Illusionist website started as a black website. It then became white over time. It was very clean, very corporate, very commercial. It's a white site with blue buttons, which is everything in the e-commerce checklist. It was all gridded. Blue buttons symbolize trust. Blue buttons symbolize trust. So we just kind of copied it. We lost what we were really known for, which was being edgy. And we were like, hey, let's go back to black. So what was supposed to happen was the campaign was going to launch with a timer on the website. Now that was allowing us to do something else, which was to move 20 years of data from Magento over to Shopify Plus. So it wasn't just a new website. All the back-end platforms, servers, everything was moving across. Now that's all heavily regulated, especially in California, where the business is located. Customer data needs to be very secure. Customer credit card data for like rebilling, subscriptions, whatever, needs to be very secure. You have to pay insurances. You have to make sure everyone's data is perfect and it doesn't leak. So it's a very, very busy thing to do. So yeah, on the Friday, Brad would send a cryptic message. We would turn the website off, and then we'd come back with a timer. And guess what? And we learned from this, but we turn the website off, we go to swap it over with the timer, and it's not working. It won't come back online. Shopify doesn't know what the problem is. Now, this is Saturday and Sunday where people are not working at these companies. They're not working at Shopify. They're on skeleton staff. You know, it's like, hey, we'll get back to you within 48 hours. And all the while, we don't know what's going on. The Magic community doesn't know what's going on. And I start to get death threats. You know, my stepbrother called me and he's like, someone just told you to go and die because you're a thief and a scumbag on your Facebook wall. Are you okay? And I said, what do you mean? And I went on to my Facebook and someone was like, you stole my downloads. You're a thief and a scumbag. I hope you die. I'm like, wow, this is like next level.
Yeah, this is bad. Yeah.
Really bad. Yeah, really bad. So, that's the Saturday. We still don't know what's going on, and it gets worse. With us not saying anything, it starts to get much worse. And then there's rumors. Hey, Illusionist has gone out of business. That was a rumor that started. Hey, Murphy's is buying Illusionist. That was another rumor that started. Hey, Illusionist is doing this to annoy their customers, right? They're doing it for fun to annoy their customers, which is so not true. Like, there's no company on earth that wants to specifically annoy or piss off their customers. It's just like, it goes against it, like the customers is what keeps us in business. So keeping customers happy is within our interest. But, the Magic Cafe and other places, it was like perpetuating on there by a few people. Hey, this is Illusionist sticking it to all of their customers, which is like, again, it's so not true. Behind the scenes, we're frantic and we all vote as a team. We say, look, until we can fix it, we're essentially going to be sending an email into the void.
Yeah.
So we start to count. We're like, it's the weekend, which is slow for us anyway. Our order volume goes down on Saturday and Sunday because people are out doing gigs. They're hanging out with their family. They're off to visit people. They're off to shows. They're off out to restaurants. So we were like, okay, let's just kind of head down, try and fix it. We'll have something to say on Monday. We find out that it's an SSL certificate problem. So Monday comes around and we're like, let's launch a YouTube live and we'll address it with the trailer and we'll address it with the new website and we'll kind of do a live. And we hear from Cloudflare, which is a company that provides the SSL certificate. They say, hey, we won't have this fixed for another hour. So we're like, cool. So we push it back by 1 more hour. And now there's 500 people waiting on the live who are annoyed that it's been pushed back an hour. So again, we'd been on that call for 7 hours. Me, Tom Elderfield, Pete Turner, Brad, Dave, Jennifer, Dwayne, Oban, like we were all on the call. What do we do? And we all voted, okay, until we have a clear fix and a timeline for people, maybe it's best to stay quiet because 500 people are waiting, but there's hundreds of thousands of people on our email list. And that's not hyperbole. We have hundreds of thousands of people on our email list. So what's best? To send an email to a couple 100,000 people saying that the website's broken and look like idiots, or look like idiots to 500 people. And hindsight's 2020, but we decided to look like idiots to 500 people rather than look like idiots to a couple 100,000 people. So we wish, obviously, now we'd not made that decision because it perpetuated into something that wasn't true.
Yeah.
But we kind of had to push that back, and it was a massive, horrible situation that was, it kind of kept customers in the dark. But we came back with a website and everyone's downloads were there and everyone got access. And I think with all of media, people hear the headline and they never see the retraction, or they read the headline, sorry, and they never read the retraction. So they saw all those rumors about Illusionist, about how we'd done this on purpose, how we hated our own customers. And then they never saw what actually happened, which is we put a blog post live about it online. I did one on my own blog. And I've written it in a blog post called Misconceptions that you can Google. Google Illusionist Misconceptions. And you can, you can literally read it. You can see exactly what I've just told you. But it's kind of, it was one of those decisions that was definitely wrong, but you can only know it's wrong afterwards. Like, do we say, hey, it's broken and we don't know when it's coming back and look like idiots and ruin a launch that we've been working on for ages and have people speculate then about their customer data leaking, their credit card information leaking? Do we do that, or do we keep quiet and let 500 people be annoyed versus a couple 100,000? So yeah, everything, you make mistakes. That was definitely a mistake, but it wasn't with malice, like people said. It wasn't something, and I think that's important, is that sometimes people prescribe malice to something that has a very simple explanation. Like they say, oh, they must have done this for this reason to screw over their customers. And
what's the logic in that, right?
Yeah. It's, but I can see why people are annoyed, but that was 2020. That was November 2020. It's now 2023. That was 3 years ago, and I still see people bringing it up on videos or bringing it up in forum posts. It's like the website hasn't gone anywhere. No one's lost any of their data. No one's lost any of their stuff. So it's like,
yeah. And it's in my opinion, from going back in the day, which, by the way, I forgot to tell you about this. I can't remember. I don't think I sent you this. Ahmed and I you showed me this thing that you can see websites in their past iteration. I can't remember. I think it's like the Wayback Tool or something like that.
Yeah, Wayback Machine. Yeah.
Yeah, the first iteration of E. And I just look at it like then and now. This is before the current rebrand, which I love the current rebrand. And it's like, man, thank God that they made this thing. They moved over to Shopify. It's just a better interface and everything, right? But again, you're right.
Let me just address one of the comments here. I just read this.
Yeah, go for it.
E didn't even bother putting out any kind of message, question why not. someone said, trying to save face while denying customers of their purchase is poor form. Yeah, look, I just said this as well. Like, when you swing as much as us, sometimes you'll miss. We are not special people. We're just people with flaws. You know, I have apologized. We do apologize. It wasn't with malice, but in this particular instance, it was a mistake to not say anything at all. We voted about it on the team. And in hindsight, that was definitely the wrong move to make.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, how many times are people going to kick us for the same thing? It's, you know, yes, if something like this happened in future, we would know what the backlash would be and we'd kind of address it. But yeah, at the time when you're in it and all you're trying to concentrate on is getting the website fixed, sometimes you're just snow blind to like what the repercussions were going to be. So yeah, at the time we didn't do that, and we would definitely do differently in future.
Yeah. And I know for a fact, 'cause I heard behind the scenes before when that happened, it was before you and I were really in touch. But like, I remember hearing from Peter, like, you know, you guys were broken up big time. Like, it wasn't just a matter of like I just don't get it. Like, we all love a good laugh, right? But that something like this isn't equivalent to a good laugh. This is just an honest thing that happened, and it's like, fuck. Because I remember Peter doing the day by day, kind of telling me of what's going on because I'd seen it, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and like he's just like, oh man, you know, it's just technical issues, but we can't really say, we don't really know. We're just not gonna. The best thing we can do is kind of brush it under the rug, but it happens, you know. It's just things that happens, and we all do have flaws, big time. So you know, I think this is interesting. So thinking back on some of these earlier campaigns as well, like maybe even going back to like the, you know, because this is something that I think we talked about. Maybe we've talked about this, maybe we haven't. Maybe someone else told me about this. Like back in the day, like for some of these like Madison X Erdnase campaigns and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
like people were kind of just as amped up. Like, man, there were people threatening Daniel Madison and you guys for like, you know, him saying I'm better than Erdnase and I can prove it. You know,
Yeah.
what are some of these weird backlashes that have happened? What are some things that like as well to counteract that? What are some things that were just like holy crap, like knowledge bomb dropped, holy crap. Because you and I are both on the love of digital marketing, man. And
Mm-hmm.
the first thing we do is we do what works, right? But we have to test a lot.
Yeah. I mean, I joined Illusionist when I was 24 or 25. I think I was 25. So, because it's like 8 years and I'm 33 now. So I joined Illusionist when I was 25, mid 20s, didn't have a lot of experience, definitely didn't have any experience with a company this well known, with this much impact within a niche. So yeah, I guess our marketing has evolved. My marketing has evolved over the years, and it's been informed by things that work and things that don't work. And you have to try to fail. You learn through failure, and
Right.
by, you know, being able to kind of make these micro adjustments as you go forward. So the Erdnase Madison thing was huge. It was inflammatory, and you know, I think it was really good. It was good for Magic. There's a few things that, you know, I won't specifically mention the campaign outcomes, but I think the change campaign where I wrote Change Magic Forever, that was my first ever campaign with Illusionist.
Mm-hmm.
And Madison had a trick called change. So he would do that and it would change. And it was a gimmick that, you know, was, I guess, kind of designed to replicate that, but in a slow-mo way. And I didn't really understand the power that I had in that moment. When I did a huge campaign with, it's called a Thunderclap at the time, which was a service where you batch everyone's shares and they all go out on a deadline. I had the email list, I had all these tools at my discretion. And it was hyperbolic, you know, it was change magic forever. You've never seen anything like this before. And it was like a massive learning curve for me, which is that, you know, expectations and reality if the expectations outweigh the reality of the method, people will be unhappy. So, you know, people will be unhappy if they expect real magic because of the way that you've positioned it. And then the reality is that the method, you know, either they've seen something like it before or it's just not for them. That gap between expectations and reality is where people become unhappy.
That's it.
Yeah, learning that, you can only, again, you learn through failure. Learning that, you're able to kind of tell people what to expect. But it's semantics, you know. Sometimes, oh look, Brad Christian's just joined the chat.
I was gonna say I was to say I saw it. I'm like, oh shoot,
Yeah,
Bradley.
Bradley. But yeah, so, sometimes you you know, you misalign those expectations, and sometimes it's semantics. So I say no magnets, no threads, no flaps, and it fools everyone. And if it fools everyone and they expect real magic at that point, because we've said 3 or 4 or 5 things that it's not, and at that point it fools them. So when they get the product and it's something else, let's say it's like a slider, you didn't lie. You didn't say no slider. You told everyone what it's not, but they kind of fill in the blanks. They're like, well, if it's not that, it's not that, it's not that, it's not that, then I'm fooled.
Yeah.
Some people will be disappointed. And again, and that's just like the case of like their expectations are higher than you can deliver on. And those people are the most vocal. You know, like sometimes you get 2 or 3 people that are unhappy, and then you'll get, you know, thousands of people that bought it that are happy, that leave good reviews, that are just quiet and they just don't say anything. So that is the difference when you're selling magic, is that you always want to try and have the reality be higher than people's expectations, or at least have them aligned. And anytime you run a campaign where the expectations start to take on a life of their own and people start speculating, and then you say nothing and everyone runs with it, that's when it starts to become a problem. That's when it starts to disappoint people. So yeah, we definitely have learned to not do that anymore. And a lot of what we do now is just tell people, hey, we only deal with bangers. It's a slam banger. Wait and see. If you're not sure whether you want to buy it, wait for the reviews, because we're confident it's brilliant. Yeah.
And the thing is too, like, while we were also, I was thinking about this too, like in a lot of ways, there's a lot of like kind of Apple stuff. Like if we think of Apple, for example, right?
Yeah.
Like they aren't the first to market sometimes for some things, right? Like I think a good example of that is like Ditto. Like I love Ditto. You know, you guys aren't the first to market like a color match, but what you did is you refined it and created an alternative thing to it, right? Like you guys refine, sometimes some of your best products are just refining the idea down to its purest form and making it just super usable. Like I think Apple does that really well. I see that a lot in what you guys do as well. You know, and like again, going back to like some of the things we were kind of going over with like heartbeat and stuff, right? Like it's one of those things where it made me think about that too on the I'm fooled side. Is like, yeah, okay, so it's a physical product. What could this be? What could this be?
Yeah.
And, it's so cool when you see what it is, and you just realize, yeah, no, it's at the end of the day, you're just getting the perfect stuff to do this, and a beautiful thing to display, and it shows your care and love for this thing, and you know, on your shelf. Like who's our guest? Introduce our guest.
This is Matilda. Somebody in the comments said, hey, his dog is trying to get airtime. So yeah, this is Matilda the Dachshund. She is trying to get airtime. So I just thought I'd give her a little feature there for that person in the comments. Who was that?
She's a pretty girl. I was seeing Brad here, and I wanted to talk about this too, talking about some of the, you know, MagicStream. So I think that like a lot of people, because I know that like whenever you order at Illusionist, there's always like an offer to join, and a great offer to join. and I want to clarify for a lot of people too. Like I say it in a lot of my videos. If you've seen my stuff, you haven't. I do my best to not call you guys and ask for stuff for free.
Mm-hmm.
Something I'm very big on. I want to support, right? Like MagicStream, I bought it. I bought the full year. There's a lot of good stuff on there, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, holy crap! If you buy MagicStream, you get all of this just awesome material. Can you kind of go on to the vision of that? Like where it's, I know you just also, I saw BTS, so behind the scenes of like you doing some new stuff, I believe with Hiroshi, Hiroshi Magic. Can you just talk about that a little bit? What's the vision for that? How's that going to evolve? I think it's just such an exciting thing.
Yeah, I mean, MagicStream is, obviously it was the first, I guess, monthly streaming service within the world of Magic. It's what we were trying to do always with Illusionist, what Brad did in the beginning. I know he's kind of there now watching this. So, Illusionist is always about pushing the envelope. It's always about being new, creating some kind of innovation. And that was back in 2016 when we did that. We've seen kind of people try and emulate it and fail. We've seen people emulate it for themselves, like Christy and Grace with Magic Monthly, and succeed, and very well deserved. So, or David Williamson, again, very well deserved. He has a membership too. So there's some really good ones out there. There's some really bad ones out there. But our whole vision, and we're kind of confident we stand behind it, is it's the best deal in Magic. If you can only buy one thing and you buy this membership for a year, it's less than $100, but it's going to give you access to hundreds of tricks, hundreds. Yes. It's more than a lifetime, it's more than a lifetime's worth of magic. So really, if you were on a budget, if you want a really tight budget, that's what that's for. And then also, you should never be bored. Let's say the wife goes out, she goes out with her friends, and you've got the evening to yourself. We just want something to be there where you can kind of cherry pick. Let's say it's a Sunday afternoon and you've got nothing to do, but you're going out in an hour, or you have to go walk the dogs in an hour. So you've got 1 hour and you want to just jump on and learn something quickly. So that's kind of why it's there. It's the convenience aspect. It's the consolidating the learning from so many artists aspect, and it's giving it to the community for such a cheap price. It's like almost criminal how much is there for such a small price. But yeah, I don't want it to be a pitch. If you're not a member already, there's thousands of members there. We say things like thousands of people can't be wrong. Yeah. But it is true. There's thousands of people on there getting value. And it's so much, like even just some of the stuff from Justin Miller, like get on there and like search Justin Miller tricks. Some of those things
I've been doing this last few weeks. I love rewatching all. You see all the looks of Justin Miller.
Yeah. Justin Miller is like the chameleon of Magic. Like he's
totally.
But yeah, I mean, it's so, there's so much on there that's kind of why we launched MagicStream. It's why we keep paying into it. I know last year we had 16 releases on MagicStream. So even if all of them were $10 downloads, you're still getting almost double what you would pay in terms of retail value from that. And some of it was like $150 project that was just given to MagicStream members for free.
Yeah.
So that's already paid for your membership in one transaction.
Yeah, 100%. I know that. So is there anything you can kind of disclose on we'll kind of make this just in general, because I think we've talked a lot of the growth and everything, and I think the people tuning in now, I think the next kind of step to look at is what's the future and what's going forward. I think a good place to kind of start on that is man, is there stuff? I know a few things, but is there some stuff that you guys are working on right now? We're talking MagicStream, we're talking things about to be that you're working on product wise coming out that you can kind of commentate on, talk about it all. I think that I know there's some really exciting stuff up, on the cutting board up next on the list, basically.
Yeah, I mean, everything gets its time in the sun. The beauty of working on less projects is that we get to give more attention to those artists and those individual releases a lot more. So I'd rather not talk about things we've got coming, because I don't want to gloss over what we've just released with Christian Grace and with Juan Colas.
Yeah.
And even the smart memo pad, you know, from Peter. So there's some incredible material on the site right now. And I think it's definitely a case where the magic industry always wants new. Somebody asked a comment earlier and they said something like, you know, do you create new things for relevancy or for money? And I'd say both, because the industry cares about new. The industry cares about what's new. So if we don't release new products, our sales will go down and we'll be out of business. New is what brings the attention, and good products is what keeps the attention. So that's really like what our focus is. It's just kind of working on like the best stuff possible. I'll just jump back because there's some great questions, by the way, in the comments.
Yeah, it's hard to keep up because so many people like just want to know so much. I've been trying to circle back every once in a while, but it just flooded.
Yeah. So the one guy called Joel says, are there certain terms or words you avoid in selling that usually create too high of an expectation?
That's a great question.
In honor of Brad, I'm going to say best. The word best. When I first started with Illusionist, Brad, I used to write copy for Illusionist back in the day. And I used to send my copy to Brad, and it would be like, this is the best TNR you've ever seen. And he'd go, who's best? Who decides best? What does best mean? What does best mean? Best to who? Best to which person? Which part is the best? And I'd say, oh, well, it's, you know, it's a TNR. The best thing is that it's like, it's so practical. He's like, cool, say it. Say it's practical. Don't say best, say practical. So I think words like best, we definitely shy away from, because it does create expectation, and it's also it adds confirmation. If we say it's the best, then we're saying everything else that exists that's similar is worse.
Yeah. And
then some people won't agree. So it's like, yeah, it has to be, we have to give a reason for it being best. If we say this is, you know, the best wallet because of these reasons, and then often we don't need to say the word best. So yeah, that's a really good question, Joel. We try and steer away from best.
Cut out the what was we were talking about when we were in Vegas, when you and Brad were having your powwow by the pool, writing up and refining copy and scripting even more. You know, cut out all the adjectives, right? Yeah.
So, you know, we were in Vegas, me, you, Brad, I think, having a coffee by the pool. And we were talking about what we're going to say. And I think we kind of got to like, again, and I think this is why everything's working for E at the moment. We got down to distilling it down to the simple truth of Brad saying there was no point in doing a sequel unless it's better than the first. You know, like we needed to make it better. We needed to give it more value. Otherwise, there was no point in doing it. And that's the direction that we decided to go in. It was like, we could say, oh, it's even more impossible. These methods are even more fooling. But really, the honesty is we wouldn't have done a second version if we didn't think the material was good. So by telling them, you know, telling everyone the truth of like, we wouldn't do another version unless it was better than the first, is already confirming those other sales points that we could say, which is like, this is more advanced on this reason. You're going to get more presentations with this. There's a specific way that Pete does this one thing that even though you may already know the secret, he'll still fool you with it because of these extra nuances. So yeah, I think, you know, being in that area, I think you learned a lot from kind of listening to that conversation too.
Well, it's so cool because, you know, like I said, you and I love magic, and like there's like this last couple of weeks where I've just kind of flooded you with like, and of course it's when you're on holiday and stuff. I'm flooding like, dude, I had this idea, and all this stuff. But really, what you and I seem to get on about is I like that's what my main thing is. Like the moment I start talking to you, I'm like, bro, how do I get into the copy? How do I develop this voice? What are some of the the copywriting secrets? Where does what is the next level of like the Dan Kennedy Ultimate Sales Letter for those, for example, for those of you out there that, oh, okay. So Craig Petty's actually hopped on.
Mm-hmm. I just saw he's got a comment. I think we should address that. I think we should jump onto it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Craig Petty says, "Hey G, I've just been told by a friend that you said I don't care that I only care about clickbait, and that I'm not interested in having a conversation. Just join in now so I can clarify. I don't like hearsay." So again, this is hearsay. I didn't say that. I said, Craig, that back when the downfall of Illusionist video was made, that I offered to come on your channel as an interview, and I was never taken up on that offer. And I said, and I have to ask myself, why was I never taken up on that offer? Perhaps you were busy. I'm sure you can rewatch this video. I said, perhaps you were busy, or perhaps you made the video because it had Illusionist in it and it got loads of likes and subscribers and loads of attention and loads of views, and that it wasn't worth doing a follow-up to that thing because it was already taken off. And then I addressed really the drama within Magic, things like this that happen, this kind of like hearsay where someone says something and then someone texts, hey, they said this thing about you. That I said that the negativity and the kind of infighting really is for likes, views, subscribers. Otherwise, it wouldn't be said at all. So, yeah, I'm sure I said more. I'm sure I said like more regarding that video. But Jake, I mean, do you remember anything that I missed there?
No. I think you're very clear, and I think we very much said in the surface, man. Like I love what Craig does. I would actually really love to talk to Craig. I met him a couple times, Blackpool Magic Alive. Yeah, we kind of use an example, and we didn't just talk about Craig either, because I think it hits an important point home, and I think you're right in a way. Like, yeah, so you can watch Craig on this. You can watch it back. I'm happy to provide you. We've got like a summary of this going right now with an AI. You can click different points into the transcription to go right back to it, and I'll provide that for you afterwards, man.
Well, I guess let's throw it off to Craig too. Craig,
Craig, what do you think?
If you want an interview, I did offer last year when that video went out. If you want an interview on your channel to address that video that you did for the downfall of Illusionist, I've got, I text you at the time saying that I agree with some things you said, but some things you said were 2 and 2, coming out to 5. So yeah, if you wanted to address that on your channel, my door is open. You've got my number. Send me a message and I'll tell you exactly what I told Jake regarding, I guess, the transparency. But yeah, I've mentioned I've offered you an interview and I've not been taken up on that offer.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Go on, Jake. Should we jump into something else?
Yeah. We'll circle back around if we see something come up here. So let's talk about just like some of the words of wisdom you'd give to other people, and not just on the side as well, I feel like, of, hey, these are the effects to do, that kind of stuff. I think people need better words of wisdom than that, and I know that you'll provide that to them. Like, somebody really wants to get out there and they want to use their words to influence. They want to move farther, either in their career, because again, you're that guy that kind of started from this position and now you're the head honcho, right?
Mm-hmm.
What should people do, and what should their mentality be to get to the tip top of whatever they do, whether that's their own venture and they want to be a professional performer, or I'm just going to kind of leave that open. What would you give words of wisdom wise to those people?
Yeah, I think magic is a performance art. The reason we all get into magic is to perform and to do tricks for people. And yeah, I guess if we could close this off as like a final point, and then maybe take like a few more questions in a quick fire round. So if you've got questions, leave them in the chat. But yeah, I mean, I'm not a full-time performer. I used to be. I used to perform. I used to do cocktail bars. I used to do weddings a lot. It's a very hard environment post-COVID, especially during COVID. You know, magic as a performance art took a serious hit during COVID. There was I think, what was it? Coronavirus Magicians Unite support group on Facebook for people that said, look, I'm going to have to give up my dream of magic and go drive for Amazon to kind of make a living. So it was a really, really harsh gut punch to the magic community to kind of see what happened with COVID. And I don't think it's fully come back. I don't think that people are going out to shows with the same vigor and attention that they did pre-COVID. I don't think magicians are being booked at the same pace as they were pre-COVID. So yeah, I think magic is suffering from that. I think it's harder to be a performer. If I had any advice, I guess it would be, you know, go where the customers are. So if in your local area, restaurants aren't doing good, but there's a golf club, you know, meeting every Thursday night where the golf club is packed and 200 people are there because they have, you know, a get together, have to get there and offer your services as a performing magician there. If you used to do nightclubs, but now that nightclub isn't busy at 7 p.m. anymore, and it doesn't get busy till 10 p.m., then make yourself available later. If weddings were postponed for a few years, but now weddings are kind of coming back with a boom, then concentrate on weddings. So you just have to decide where the people are, where the most opportunity for you is. And yeah, I guess, you know, take that into account whilst you're doing that, and to go sell your services in those areas instead of, I guess, potentially just expecting those opportunities to come back to you. I don't think they're going to come back with the same or in the same way. I don't think they're going to come back in the same way as they did pre-COVID.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I agree with you. You know, it's that proactive versus reactive kind of reality too, right? Like, you know, if you want to make $1,000 or more per performance, you're probably there's a good chance you're probably not going to do that if you're doing the local family restaurant, kind of doing things for people. But if you can get in with the local fine dining and frame up what you do as that as a next level of service, or like you're saying, go to the local golf club and, you know, maybe you go out for a round of golf and that's a passion, or maybe just get into it just to go there and network. If you're, you know, like I battle a lot in my own stuff where we help a lot of, you know, businesses that have 10K in revenue more a month, to give you an example, reoccurring already, because that's where typically the bottlenecks hit of, oh, okay, so just as people know us, how do we go further? And for me to reach the right people, it wouldn't make sense to go to the free networking events as much, to give you an idea, because there's a lot of people there just passing their card, doing Avon, realtors that maybe don't have a real stake, but they pretend like they do, right? You got to go where the money is. You got to be strategic, be polite, be interesting, but also be so busy with what you're passionate in doing and delivering to people that they have to schedule a call. They have to schedule that. It's not just, oh, willy-nilly meet up at the whim. You know what I mean? I think that's some great tips you gave for everyone there. So let's go back. Let's go tackle some of these questions. As Craig's come back and he's happy to do an interview.
Very interesting. Isn't it very interesting, Jake, that I offered this last year and I've met Craig back in March in Paris, and that the offer has never been accepted. And then as soon as I mentioned that offer's never been publicly accepted on a live like this, that now it is publicly, it's very strange of the timing of that. I understand that people get busy. Yeah. But yeah, Craig, I said at the time, I wanted the opportunity to address some of the things you brought up. I would be more than happy to bring up some of those things and set the record straight on a lot of those things, and even agree with you on some of those things.
Yeah.
But
I'll watch that. That'll be interesting.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Any other questions, Jake, that we can see in the chat?
Yeah, in the chat I was seeing, because Craig did ask, do you really think that, like, he said, do you really, I think it was adjusting towards the booking side. My personal experience is that the point inquiries and bookings are up now across the board compared to pre-COVID.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hearing from other magicians. I'm hearing from other performers,
Right.
you know, about that. So I guess individually, I mean, I think I was talking about this with a magician before, but there's comedy clubs, but there's not many magic clubs. You know, I don't have many of my personal friends saying like, oh, should we go to the magic club this weekend? There's not many. You've got Slight Bar in Bath in the UK. I think Smoke and Mirrors was in Bristol. So there's not many people that go out to see live magic unless they go into like a Darren Brown show within the UK.
Totally.
And then in the US as well, you know, I don't know many people that say, oh, on Friday night, I'm going to go see some live magic. So yeah, I hear from people that it's not come back in the same way. I don't think it has. I think as a performing art, it's quite low down on the tier when it comes to laymen and what they choose. And yet it's the most impressive. So when you show a layman magic, they're like, oh my God, this is like the craziest thing ever.
Yeah.
But it's not like they're seeking it out weekly to go and enjoy in the same way that they would when they open up Spotify on their iPhone every day.
Big fact.
So, yeah.
I've noticed Hungry Hungover, great follower again, has asked a couple times, you know, what's the most fooled you've ever been, whether it was by a magician showing you something at a convention or something submitted to E? I know he's asked it a couple times, so I want to make sure I hit it. It sounds like it's a very important question, kind of for him. He just loves to hear it.
Yeah, I don't know, I guess the most fooled. Like, again, most is like, I might think of something immediately, and then 2 hours later, I'll be like, oh no, actually it was this. I was very, very fooled by Heartbeat when I first saw it. Very, very fooled, because I felt like I was, you know, watching him so intently. I watched him do it on Danny Goldsmith. I watched him do it on Sav, and then I experienced it for myself. So yeah, very, very, very fooled by Heartbeat. I'm just really honored to kind of bring it back. There's a guy in here as well, Anthony Crapella, their Instagram name, Hairy Houdini with a W. And watching him on Instagram do the Ruby Cup, I thought he'd manipulated the sound in the edit, in the video edit. So yeah, that was another one where I was like, what? Like, was that you changing the sound? He's like, no, this is exactly how it is. So again, I was so fooled by that.
That's cool. That's really cool. Well, you know, we've been going 2 hours. We have a lot of people. Dude, we've maintained a really good concurrent like viewers. So, you know, first off, from I think about both of us, but you know, like, thank you if you've stuck through this whole time. That means that you've carved out the time to get up this early from the UK. If you're in the US, you know, it's 7 a.m. here on the East Coast. If you're on the West Coast, you know, think of this, if people are watching the West Coast, like, they got up at like 4 a.m. to start this.
Yeah, huge.
Isn't that crazy?
Huge. Let Jake know in the comments as well, like, either by subscribing to his channel or by commenting in the comments on this video or sharing it. Let him know if you want to do another one of these, because I'm sure there's tons of things we didn't get to.
Oh yeah.
But yeah.
You and I can rattle on forever. We actually have to stop each other a lot of times. It's like, oh shit, we've been on the phone for 2 hours. Oh shit.
Yeah.
So, you know,
yeah,
first,
I've really enjoyed this, by the way. I've really enjoyed you know, jumping on and kind of getting a platform to be able to share some of these things that, you know, either are misconceptions or things that people don't necessarily know about. Yeah, I guess if there's any kind of hard-hitting questions, we'll maybe address it in a number 2, in a part 2 for this.
I love
yeah,
it.
thank you, Jake. Thanks everyone for attending.
Yeah, thank you. Like, dude, it's like I said, I think we talked ahead of this. Like, we just want to kind of make it an example of like what we kind of chat about, go back and forth, and morally and everything kind of talk about anyway. And
Yeah.
I think they've been a great fly on the wall experience. Got to have a lot of things highlighted. We have like a really cool. I don't know if it's a fully closing of a circle yet, but we have the Craig Petty interview to look forward to. It sounds like that's going to be super cool. I want us to be there live for that.
Mm-hmm.
And as Brad Christian just says, and honestly, G is killing it as CEO.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. You know, Brad is a really good friend and mentor to me and has taught me so much, not just with Illusionist and Magic, but in general in business and life. So yeah, it's a really good friendship. I'm very lucky to have this opportunity to kind of continue the vision that he had. So yeah, and he's not dead, by the way, he's still alive, but that sounds like he's dead. But like, I'm really happy that he gave me this opportunity, and yeah, more to come, more really, really good stuff to come.
Can I ask you one more thing before we go? Because I've this is one of these questions that always get lost whenever I think we chat. Ninja 3.
Yeah, Ninja 3 is a question for Brad. Maybe I'll get Brad to do like a blog post on
Cool.
Ninja 3. Yeah, Ninja 3 gets asked a lot. So yeah,
Okay.
let's
Save that one.
Let's save that one for I'll get Brad to kind of like write something up about Ninja 3 but yeah, awesome. I think that would be really cool.
All right. Well, that being said, that's an awesome cliffhanger closer between that, Craig Petty. So, dude, go on, everyone, if you haven't already, and if you are here and you haven't subscribed to Craig Petty, first off, why not? Like, how do you know me more than him, first off? Go subscribe to his channel, man, and tune in for that. It's going to be really cool. I'm going to personally be there. I'm super excited about that. There's a lot of great things. Yeah, I know. Hungry and Hungover Ninja 3 with Pig Cake. Go subscribe to Pig Cake as well. Like, screw my channel. If you're on here, cool. We do fun stuff, but there's some true greats out there like Pig Cake, like Craig, but if you want to see what we have to offer more like this, feel free to subscribe.
Pops OG says, "Hey Craig, big fan. But did G ask before? Why not then? I do notice everything is on your terms only. You made time to rip E apart, make the interview happen for both sides." That's exactly my point, Pops. I completely agree. I've offered my time and I'd be willing to address those concerns on Craig's channel. And yeah, I think if you've got time to say things online without knowing if they're true or not, then you should have time to kind of rectify some of those things and make time to make a video and ask me those questions. I'm an open book, as you found today. I'll tell you anything you want to know. Just, I would like the opportunity to actually be asked that question instead of to kind of hear it third party through someone's own filter. So yeah, let's make that interview happen. Give the people what they want.
Yeah, that's exciting, man. That's super exciting. Well, all right, before we have one more tantalizing, amazing question come in, you've got pups to take care of. I've got a kitty to go love and about 100 cold calls to make today. So let's go and have our amazing day.
100%. This one needs feeding. So yeah, thank you very much, everyone. And I'll see you on the next one.
Yeah. Thank you all for tuning in. We're going to end right now and have a wonderful day if you're here from wherever you are. Okay. Oh, 1 sec. Let me